My daughter-in-law told me, "You're just a reminder of everything wrong with his life." She made me leave my own home while my son watched, his face blank. I drove away in the rain, but my heart was already planning my revenge. I'm a 61-year-old woman, and I never imagined I'd be writing something like this. But here I am. I live, or used to live, in Hilliard, Ohio. That house on Mill Run Drive? It used to be mine. 3 bedrooms, small front porch, faded white siding, but it was home. I bought it with my husband back in '89. We raised our son, Eli, there. I buried my husband and stayed for Eli. Every holiday, every birthday, every memory was tied to that place. Now it feels like it never belonged to me at all. Let me back up. Eli and Marcy lost their jobs 2 years ago. He was a warehouse manager, she did social media or digital marketing, something online. When the layoffs hit, they were drowning in bills. I told them they could move in. I didn't hesitate. I was still working part-time at the bank and I had some savings. They were my family. They moved in upstairs. I moved into the basement to give them privacy. I even had my handyman buddy, Rick, help me build out a little kitchenette down there. I told everyone it was temporary. It wasn't. At first, it was okay. Marcy was polite, even kind. She'd make coffee in the mornings and bring me a cup. She helped fold laundry, asked me about Eli's childhood. She called me Mom. I thought we were bonding. But then the baby came. And everything changed. She didn't want my help. If I offered to rock the baby, she'd say, "He just needs his mother right now." If I mentioned diaper rash cream, she'd roll her eyes. I tried to stay quiet, but it felt like walking on broken glass. Eli was always tired. Always working, always on edge. When I did catch him alone, he was distant. No smiles, no warmth. I'd ask him if everything was okay, and he'd just shrug and say, "We're fine." Marcy started doing small things to push me out. Changing the thermostat settings so it was freezing downstairs. Locking the upstairs fridge and saying it was for food safety. Claiming she accidentally tossed my childhood photo albums into a box labeled trash when she was decluttering. And then the gossip started. At church, my friend Beverly said Marcy told the prayer group I was struggling emotionally. That I had control issues from being widowed too young. That maybe I shouldn't be around the baby so much. I confronted her. She didn't deny it. Just smiled and said, "I'm protecting my family." That's when I realized she didn't see me as family at all. Still, I kept hoping Eli would notice. That he'd see how cruel she was being. That he'd stand up for me. He never did. One night, I heard them fighting upstairs. I couldn't make out all the words, but I heard my name. And the phrase, "She's always watching us," clear as day. The next morning, I found my basement door locked. The final straw happened on a Tuesday morning. It was cold and rainy, just like the day my husband died. I was folding laundry in the basement, my own clothes, because God forbid I touched theirs. I heard footsteps, then the basement door opened. Marcy stood there, dressed like she was heading to a PTA meeting. Eli stood behind her. His arms were crossed, his face blank. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. "We've been talking," she said. "And we think it's time for you to start looking for other arrangements." I blinked. "What are you talking about?" "This isn't working," she said. "It's not healthy. For any of us." I looked at Eli. "Is this how you feel?" He didn't even look at me. He just said, "Maybe it's best, Mom." I felt dizzy. I asked, "Where am I supposed to go?" Marcy shrugged. "Maybe a senior community? Assisted living? There's programs for people like you. People like me." "You mean the woman who raised your husband? Who paid for your wedding?" Who let you live here for free? She smirked. Exactly. That's the problem. You think that buys you a seat at the table forever. I couldn't breathe. I looked at Eli again. He looked at the floor. You really want me gone? I asked. Silence. You're just a reminder, she said. A reminder of everything broken in his life. Poverty. Pain. His dad dying. You drag him backwards. My knees felt weak. I couldn't stay there another second. I packed 3 bags. My clothes, my jewelry box, a few photos. That was it. Everything else, the furniture, the china, the family albums, was still in that house. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. I got in my car. It was raining. The windshield wipers squeaked as I drove toward the freeway. I didn't have a destination. Just a way. I pulled into a Motel 6 near the outer belt. I sat on the edge of the bed, soaked and stunned. I stared at the ugly green carpet and thought, they threw me out like garbage. But then another thought hit me. I made that house. I raised that boy. I sacrificed my life for them. And they tossed me like I was nothing. No. I wasn't going to sit in a motel and cry. I was going to get everything back, and then some. They think they broke me. But I haven't even started yet. I stayed at that Motel 6 for 2 weeks. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my sister, who lives over in Grove City. I just needed time to think. To breathe. I felt humiliated. Rejected. Replaced. I was also angry. Really angry. The kind of anger that doesn't burn out. The kind that stays in your bones and gets heavier every day. I didn't know where to begin, but I started with paperwork. I still owned the house. 100%. That was the first thing people always assume wrong. It was my name on the title. Not Eli's. Not Marcy's. Mine. I never added them. Not even after they moved in. They didn't ask, and I didn't offer. That house had been in my name for 34 years. So I drove down to the Franklin County Recorder's office, had them pull a fresh title. My name. Just mine. Then I checked my savings. I still had around $16,000 left. I'd been frugal my whole life. I never traveled. I never spoiled myself. I drove the same Buick since 2007. That money was supposed to be for emergencies. Well, I'd say getting kicked out of your own house by your own son and his wife qualifies. I called a lawyer named Grant who used to handle estate stuff for people at my church. He was younger than me, wore flashy watches, and didn't talk down to me. I told him what happened. He blinked and said, "Wait, they kicked you out of your house? You own the place?" "Yes." "And they're still living there?" "Yes." He stared at me and said, "Let's make this interesting." Grant helped me file a formal eviction. Not just for Marcy. For Eli too. It tore me up, but I wasn't about to let him coast while I slept in a roadside motel eating vending machine pretzels. That house was mine. They made their choice. We gave them 30 days. Marcy found out before Eli did. She called me at the motel. I let it go to voicemail. She left a 5-minute message screaming, crying, begging me to be reasonable. Said the baby needed stability, said she'd never forgive me for doing this to my grandson. My hands shook while I listened. Then Eli called. His voice was flat. "You're really doing this? You stood there while she kicked me out." He sighed. "It wasn't like that. You didn't say one word to stop her." "Mom, you're making this worse." "No, Eli. I let it get this bad because I didn't fight back. I'm not doing that anymore." He hung up. A week later, I got served. Marcy filed a wrongful eviction suit. She was trying to claim tenant rights. Said I gave them implied residency, and that I was putting a mother and infant out on the street. I didn't even know she had the money to pay a lawyer. But then Grant found something. Turns out, Marcy's been dipping into Eli's old 401k. She cashed out a chunk of it 2 months ago. That's how she was affording a lawyer, groceries, and that new Peloton she had delivered right before they kicked me out. Eli didn't know. I knew he didn't, because when I asked him years ago, he said he wanted to save it for the baby's college. Said he wasn't touching a cent. I took a photo of the transaction statement, printed it out, and mailed it anonymously to his work address. I wasn't done. I started gathering everything I had. Photos. Texts. Copies of Marcy's weird social media posts from when she was still influencing. Stuff where she said things like, "I wish people would stop giving advice if they're not the baby's parent," and "being around toxic people is bad for your mental health, even if they're family." I printed all of it. Then I called my sister, Rose. Rose used to be a teacher. She's got this fire in her that never burns out. When I told her everything, she said, "Oh hell no. You are not going through this alone." She moved me into her guest room that same night. Then she started calling friends. Women from church. People from the neighborhood. Everyone I'd helped over the years. One by one, they started telling me stories. Things Marcy had said behind my back. Things Eli had let happen. One woman, Cheryl, said she overheard Marcy at the daycare talking about how she hoped the old lady would just croak so they could finally remodel the basement. Another said Marcy had told her Eli was on anxiety meds because his mom wouldn't leave him alone. It all started to click. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted to erase me. Blame me for their mess. Rewrite our family story so they were the victims. But I still had the truth. And I was going to use it. 3 days before the eviction deadline, I filed an emergency motion to expedite. Said they were damaging my property and had ignored 2 written notices. Marcy showed up to the hearing in leggings and sunglasses, holding the baby like a prop. Eli didn't even come. The judge ruled in my favor. They had 7 days to vacate. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I had a bigger plan. One that would hurt more than just taking the house back. They tried to shame me. Push me out. Lie about me to everyone. Now, it was my turn. They moved out the day before the eviction deadline. I wasn't there. I had Grant send an officer to oversee it. I didn't want to see their faces. I didn't want to hear Marcy's crying, or see Eli trying to look like the victim. I told Grant to change the locks and to document every room. That night, he called me. "Beth," he said. "You might want to come see this." I drove over the next morning. Rose came with me. When I opened the front door, I felt like I'd walked into someone else's house. My kitchen table, gone. My living room couch, gone. The only furniture left was broken or flipped. The fridge was unplugged and full of rotting food. The guest bedroom, where I used to keep my sewing machine, had graffiti in black Sharpie on the wall, "Toxic mothers ruin families." My knees buckled. I checked my bedroom closet. My wedding dress was gone. So were my mother's jewelry pieces, the ones I kept wrapped in cloth at the back. I checked the garage. My late husband's tools were missing. So was the antique chest his father made. And every single photo album was torn apart or missing entirely. They didn't just move out. They destroyed what they couldn't take. They erased me. I called the police. Filed a report. But Grant was blunt, "You probably won't get anything back. But we can use this." He filed a property damage claim. I also filed a small claim suit for the stolen items. But I knew that wouldn't fix what they'd done. This wasn't about things. It was about what they thought they could do to me, and walk away untouched. That's when the second twist dropped. Rose was talking to someone from her church who used to work at the same marketing firm as Marcy. He casually mentioned that Marcy was using someone else's tax ID to get contract work, likely to avoid garnishment or income tracking during the lawsuit. We checked. It was her cousin's ID. A 19-year-old who had no idea. I sent an anonymous tip to the IRS. It didn't take long. Within 3 weeks, Marcy got flagged. They froze her accounts while they investigated. Then came the job loss. She'd finally landed a remote social media contract through a startup out of Pittsburgh. When the IRS flagged her, the startup dropped her immediately. Now they were broke. For real this time. And guess who called me? Eli. Mom. I need to talk. He sounded tired. Different. I met him at a Panera, halfway between Rose's house and the cheap rental he and Marcy had moved into. He looked awful. Thinner. Hair unwashed. Eyes hollow. I didn't know she trashed the house, he said. She told me it was just a few things. She stole my mother's jewelry, Eli. He looked down. I didn't know that either. I didn't say anything. Then he said, she told me you pushed her. That you tried to hurt the baby. I stared at him. You think I'd hurt your son? He shook his head slowly. I don't know what to believe anymore. Then he started crying. In public. In that booth. Like a child. She's different now. Cold. Controlling. I don't know what I'm doing. I let him cry. But I didn't comfort him. He made his choice when he watched them throw me out like trash. Then he looked up at me and said the one thing that truly shocked me, I think she's cheating on me. I didn't say anything at first. But something about the way he said it. Quiet, ashamed, almost scared, made my stomach twist. He said she had started taking walks every evening, always on the phone, always guarding her screen. She had passwords on everything. New lingerie, but no interest in being near him. And she kept talking about needing space and independence. I asked him if he checked her phone. He said, she'd call the cops if I did. That's when I remembered something from months back. An Amazon box that had shown up at the house with men's dress shoes inside. I asked her then, and she said they were a gift for her cousin. I didn't think twice about it. Now I did. I told Eli to do what I should have done from the start, trust his gut. I don't know what he found on that phone. He never told me. But 3 days later, he showed up at Rose's house. He had the baby with him. A duffel bag. His eyes were red and puffy. She's gone, he said. Took the car, took what was left in the bank account. She left a note that said, I won't waste my life on guilt and obligation. He was crushed. And for the first time in months, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I let him and the baby stay in the basement of my house. My house. The one I had cleaned, fixed, and refurnished. The locks were changed, cameras installed, and Marcy had a restraining order filed for trespassing and theft. But I made Eli sign something first. A rental agreement. For $600 per month. No more freeloading. No more blank stares. He signed it without a word. I thought it was over. But I was wrong. 3 weeks later, Rose called and said, you might want to check Facebook. I did. And there she was. Marcy. Smiling. Posing on a beach in North Carolina with a man I didn't recognize. Holding a drink. Caption said, new life, new love. No drama. The comments were full of people praising her for walking away from toxicity. One even said, so proud of you for cutting out that old hag. She blocked me. But not before I saw that she had a GoFundMe running titled, Survivor Mom Escaping Abuse. She had raised almost $2,000. She was lying to strangers for money. And that, right there, is when I knew exactly how I would end it all. Marcy thought she was untouchable. She ran off with a new man, left her baby behind, smeared my name online, and was collecting sympathy money on GoFundMe. Pretending she was a victim of abuse while tanning on a beach and drinking cocktails. But she forgot one thing. I don't forget. And I don't stop. I gathered everything I had. Screenshots of her GoFundMe lies. Copies of the restraining order. The police report from the stolen property. Photos of the house damage. The IRS case number. And most important, proof that Eli had full custody now, because she abandoned her child. I reported her GoFundMe for fraud. Then I contacted 3 people who donated. One of them had left a comment saying, "No woman deserves to be treated that way." I messaged him privately and explained the truth. Sent documentation. He was shocked. He told others. The page started getting flooded with comments calling her a liar and a scammer. GoFundMe shut it down within 48 hours. Froze the funds. Investigated. Then I got a call from their legal department asking if I'd be willing to give a full statement. I said yes. But I didn't stop there. Marcy's new boyfriend, his name was Damon, worked for a marketing agency in Charlotte. I found out through her own posts. He had no idea what she had done. No idea she was under IRS investigation. No idea she'd been sued for eviction and theft. So I mailed him a packet. Anonymously. Included court documents. The restraining order. The baby's birth certificate showing Eli as the sole legal parent. And a typed note, "Be careful who you trust. She leaves wreckage behind and makes herself the victim every time. Next time, it might be you." Within a week, Marcy posted something vague and bitter about losing support from people she thought cared. Then her social accounts went dark. I found out later from one of Rose's friends that she had been forced to return to Ohio and was couch surfing with a friend in Newark. Damon dumped her. She lost everything. Her credit was ruined. Her reputation was poisoned. And nobody, not even her own family, would take her in after what she did to me. Meanwhile, Eli was trying to rebuild. He was different. Quieter. Less sure of himself. I saw the guilt in his eyes every day. He didn't say sorry, not at first. I think he was too ashamed. Too broken. But one night, after putting the baby down, he sat across from me in the kitchen and finally said it. I let her turn me into someone I never wanted to be. I nodded. He said, "You didn't deserve any of it." I didn't say anything. Then he said, "I want to earn back your trust. If you'll let me." I let him. But I never forgot what he did. That silence. That blank face when she kicked me out. That still lives in a part of me. I forgave him. But I made him earn it every day. I renovated the house. Ripped out every memory of her. New floors, new paint, new furniture. I turned the old upstairs guest room into a reading room. Hung a photo of my husband and me on the wall. The baby, my grandson, became the light of my life. He never asked about Marcy. She never called. Never wrote. Nothing. By the time he turned 3, he started calling me Mama. I never corrected him. Eli tried to co-parent alone, and I helped where I could. But deep down, I was the one raising that child. Teaching him right from wrong. Giving him what I gave Eli, structure, safety, love. Years passed. Eli got therapy. Started a new job. Found his footing again. He never dated seriously. Said he didn't want to bring that kind of risk around the boy. Marcy faded into nothing. Last I heard, she was working as a bartender in a dive bar outside of Dayton. No custody. No income. No friends left. And still blaming everyone but herself. The revenge wasn't one big moment. It was watching her fall apart slowly while I rebuilt piece by piece. It was knowing she had to live with what she did. That everyone who used to think she was sweet and innocent now saw her for what she really was. And it was seeing my house full of laughter again. Seeing my grandson run through the halls. Seeing Eli smile for the first time in years, not because of her, but in spite of her. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. I just waited. Let her destroy herself. And made sure she couldn't take me down with her. She made one mistake, thinking I was weak because I was quiet. Because I gave. Because I loved. But when you throw a woman like me out into the rain, you'd better pray she doesn't come back stronger. Because I did. And I took everything back.